Most people think stylish women are wearing better clothes, but that is not actually what is happening. What they understand is much more important, and once you see it, you stop looking at spring fashion in the same way. Because stylish women are not just collecting pieces. They are not building 10 different versions of themselves. They are not disappearing into every seasonal shift, and they are not becoming copies of each other either. Even when certain pieces start appearing everywhere, what they are really doing is much quieter than that. They are choosing things that keep the outfit clear, things that support their style instead of replacing it, things that make them look more like themselves, not less. And that is what I want to talk about today. Because if you have been looking at spring fashion and feeling like something is changing, but you could not fully explain what it is, this video is for you. Welcome to GTWJ. Hi, I'm Ju. And before we begin, grab a cup of coffee, tea, or something nice to drink and settle in. Because today we are talking about what stylish women are actually wearing in spring 2026. And I want to be very clear from the beginning. This is not about telling you that there is one correct way to be stylish, and it is definitely not about becoming someone you are not. What actually matters is understanding what works for you, what makes you look good, what fits your life, what fits your taste, and then knowing how to elevate that with what is happening now. That is the difference. Style is not something you copy. It is something you recognize, refine, and learn how to carry more clearly. So when I talk about what stylish women are wearing right now, I do not mean that you need to become a version of them. I mean that there are certain pieces and combinations appearing more and more because they create a particular effect. And once you understand that effect, you can start applying it to your own wardrobe in a way that still feels like you. The first thing you start noticing immediately is the shoes. V-cut flats. They are one of those shoe shapes that at first glance can look very simple, but once you begin paying attention, you realize they are everywhere for a reason. They are showing up more and more on women who always seem to look quietly put together and on women who are not dressing in a loud way at all, but still look incredibly current. And it makes sense because V-cut flats do something very specific. They clean up the line of the outfit. They elongate the foot. They feel sleek without trying to be dramatic. And most importantly, they do not interrupt the outfit. That is the real reason they feel so right for spring 2026. A lot of shoes can be stylish in isolation, but the moment you put them into the full look, they start competing. They pull attention downward too aggressively. They become the message. They demand to be noticed before the woman does. V-cut flats do the opposite. They support, they sharpen, they refine. They make the outfit feel cleaner, more resolved, and somehow more expensive without ever needing to scream for attention. And this is exactly the kind of thing stylish women understand instinctively. They are not always choosing the loudest or most obvious piece. They are often choosing the one that keeps the silhouette uninterrupted, the one that makes the outfit land better, the one that lets the whole look breathe. That is why I think these shoes matter so much right now. Not because they are a random trend, but because they fit the larger shift perfectly. They do not overperform, they do not over-explain, they do not look like they are trying to prove fashion knowledge, they just work. And that is often what the most stylish things do. The second thing you keep seeing is the return of the V-neck sweater, often layered over a simple white t-shirt. And I know on paper this sounds very classic. It is classic, but right now it is being worn in a way that feels especially relevant because it carries something that a lot of spring 2026 dressing is moving toward. Ease. Not fake ease, not the kind of effortless that is actually overstyled, real ease. A V-neck sweater with a white t-shirt underneath feels lived in. It feels intelligent without being heavy. It feels like the woman wearing it did not wake up trying to impress everyone in the room. It feels familiar, but still refined. And that matters, because one of the reasons so many people struggle with style right now is that they think being stylish means adding more significance to every outfit, more styling, more detail, more distinction, more visible effort. But what stylish women are actually wearing this spring often says the opposite. Sometimes the strongest thing in the outfit is the fact that it has not been pushed too far. A simple V-neck knit, a white tee underneath, a clean trouser, a flat, maybe a soft bag, maybe one piece of jewelry. That is enough. And it is enough because the outfit is not trying to build a fantasy identity from scratch. It is not trying to perform a whole aesthetic in one look. It is simply building from a few things that already make sense together. That is why this combination keeps showing up, not because it is groundbreaking, but because it feels real, it feels wearable, and it still looks stylish. That balance is becoming more important than novelty. And I think that is one of the most interesting shifts happening right now. Stylish women are not chasing the thrill of looking like a new person every week. They are refining the language they already have. That is much more powerful. And it is also much more sustainable emotionally because you stop feeling like you need a constant reinvention just to keep up. The third piece that keeps appearing is satin trousers. And this is a very good example of how the right item can elevate an outfit without making it feel overdone, because satin trousers could easily go wrong. They could look too precious, too styled, too evening, too slippery in the wrong way, too aware of themselves. But when they are worn simply, they become one of the most beautiful pieces in the whole outfit. They bring movement, they bring softness, they bring light. And yet, when styled correctly, they still feel controlled. That is why they work so well right now for everything from travel to errands to dinner to everyday city dressing. They can feel relaxed, but still elevated, comfortable, but still polished, soft, but still deliberate. And again, that is the larger point. Stylish women are not just buying items because they are pretty. They are choosing pieces that do a job. The V-cut flat sharpens the line. The V-neck knit brings easy structure. The satin trouser adds softness and fluidity without collapsing the outfit. Once you start looking at clothes this way, you stop shopping from panic. You stop asking only, is this trendy? And you start asking, what does this do? How does it affect the outfit? How does it affect the line? How does it affect the feeling? How does it affect me? That is a very different level of dressing. And this is exactly where most people stop at the surface. They see that something works, but they do not always understand why it works. And that is actually what I go much deeper into in my book, The Architecture of Fashion. The book is not the same as the issues. The book is the foundation. It is where I break down fashion as a system, how clothing functions, why certain things look right when they do, how identity is shaped through dress, and how to understand what actually works for you instead of constantly guessing. The issues are different. The issues are where I explore fashion in real time, what is shifting now, what is happening culturally, and how to apply that understanding to the present moment. So they are not the same. The book builds the structure, the issues expand it through what is happening now. And that difference matters because this conversation is not really about 3 items. It is about what these items reveal. What they reveal is that stylish women right now are not dressing in a way that erases themselves. They are not building outfits that wear them. They are not buying pieces just to prove that they know what is current. They are choosing things that support their own style and make it more precise. That is why this spring feels so interesting to me. Because in many ways, the visual shift is subtle, but psychologically it is very big. There is less costume, less performance, less pressure to assemble some perfect aesthetic from the internet, less trying to become a copy and paste version of a woman whose life, body, taste are not even yours. And in its place, there is more discernment, more editing, more understanding of what actually belongs. That is the real difference between style and imitation. Imitation says, I saw this, so now I need to become it. Style says, I see why this works, and now I know how to translate it into my own world. That is a completely different relationship to fashion, and it is one of the most important things GTWJ has always stood for. I am not interested in turning you into someone else. I am not interested in making you perform style instead of living inside it. And I am not interested in helping you build 10 disconnected versions of yourself just because seasons change. I'm interested in helping you understand what is good for you, what actually flatters you, what feels aligned with you, and how to build that into something stronger, sharper, more coherent, and more beautiful over time. That is why I always say style is not about becoming a different woman. It is about becoming a clearer version of yourself. And when you look at these spring pieces through that lens, they become much more useful. The V-cut flat is not there to give you a whole new personality. It is there to bring elegance and uninterrupted line. The V-neck sweater and white tee are not there to make you look like someone from a mood board. They are there because they feel easy, intelligent, and grounded. The satin trousers are not there to make you more fashionable in a loud sense. They are there because they add fluidity and elevation without forcing the outfit to work too hard. That is the shift. Stylish women are not wearing these things because they are chasing a uniform. They are wearing them because they create clarity. And once you understand that, you start seeing the whole season differently. You stop thinking, what do I need to buy to become stylish? And you start thinking, what kinds of pieces help me look more like myself, but more refined? That is a much better question. And it leads to much better wardrobes, because style does not come from accumulation. It comes from recognition. Recognition of what works, recognition of what disrupts, recognition of what belongs, recognition of what is beautiful on you, not just beautiful in theory. That is why some women can wear the same exact trend and one looks completely natural while the other looks like she borrowed an identity for the day. The difference is not fashion access, the difference is authorship. One woman is being led by the item, the other woman is leading the item. And stylish women almost always do the second. They let the piece enter their world. They do not disappear inside its world. That is the real lesson of this spring. But that these pieces are gaining momentum because they support a type of dressing that feels more grounded, more lived in, more intelligent, and more aligned with how women actually want to look right now. Stylish, yes, but still themselves. And that is exactly the standard I think matters, because there is no point in becoming fashionable if in the process you lose yourself. There is no point in looking current if you no longer look like you. And there is definitely no point in building a wardrobe that is full of beautiful things if none of them help you feel more clear. That is why I think the most stylish women right now are so compelling. They are not the loudest. They are not the most decorated. They are not the ones wearing the most. They are the ones whose clothes make sense on them. That is what you feel. Not perfection, not wealth signaling, not performance, coherence. And coherence is one of the most attractive things a woman can have in the way she dresses, because it shows self-knowledge, it shows editing, it shows that she is not lost in the noise. So if you take anything from this video, let it be this. You do not need a new identity for spring 2026. You do not need to become a copy of stylish women. You need to understand what they are understanding. You need to notice what keeps an outfit clear, what sharpens it, what softens it without weakening it, what makes it feel lived in instead of overdone, and what actually supports your own style instead of replacing it. That is where the real shift is. And if you are starting to see fashion differently after this, if you are starting to understand why certain pieces feel so right now and why some outfits feel stylish without ever looking forced, then I really recommend beginning with the book. The architecture of fashion is where I explain all of this properly, not as random trends or tips, but as a real system you can understand and use. And then the issues take that understanding into what is happening now in fashion, culture, and how we dress today. They are not the same. One builds your foundation, the other expands it. Everything is linked below. And remember, GTWJ is not here to turn you into someone else. It is here to help you see more clearly what is already good in you, what already works for you, and how to build that into something stronger. Because style is not something you copy, it is something you recognize. Fashion is not about what you wear, it is about how you choose to exist, with intention, with restraint, and with self-trust. We are not collecting tips, we are building identity architecture.